Stellantis sales of Rams, Jeeps, Dodge, Chrysler, Fiat, Alfa Romeo, and the list goes on, are literally in the tank. They've seen a 48% decrease in output and sales, and now something drastic is about to happen. The CEO says it's time to slash. Days supply are a huge measurement as to how popular a vehicle is and how quickly it sells. And while vehicles like the Dodge, like this, are one of the hardest selling vehicles with a day supply of at least 120 days, as well as Jeeps like these are also selling with 120 days plus supply. That just means with the industry average hovering around 74, these vehicles take twice as long to sell than the industry average of vehicles. Conversely, Toyotas, Hondas, and Lexus vehicles are selling within 20 to 30 days. And along with poor sales comes aggressive measures. Remember GM back in the day? Pontiac, Saturn, they turfed those because they weren't selling. And while a lot of CEOs typically look at the numbers only, they don't reflect and look at the cost of living crisis is taking a major toll, but instead they look at vehicles with huge margins. For example, Jeeps like this, Wranglers, clearly is a vehicle that's probably only worth 25 grand, but with price tags like they're marked up these days, sure, you get the beautiful Tonka truck look, you get the plastic guards, beautiful off-road tires and rims, but we have a Wrangler 4-door Sport S 4x4 that stickers at $66,000. And back in the day, merely 15-20 years ago, a vehicle like that was only worth $20,000 brand new. Let's still go take a look at some Dodges over here and try to understand why some of these vehicles aren't selling all that well. I mean, we have a whole lineup here of Dodge Durangos. Here's a Durango, nice little decal on there. Here's an RT. Yes, back in the day, we owned a Durango many years ago. It also had a V8 engine, although it was the 4.7. But we didn't pay a fraction of what they want for these vehicles today. Sure, it has beautiful paint, nice rims, but we had alloys. We also had step guards on ours as well, and a V8 engine, and it was cheap. But now we're looking at a vehicle that's a 2024 Durango RT Plus all-wheel drive, and this is going for a whopping $81,000. I still have to ask the question, how did we get to $81,000 from a vehicle that merely 10 years ago you could get brand new for about $28,000? And believe it or not, things get even worse for vehicles like Fiat, Alfa Romeo, as well as Rams are some of the longest standing vehicles. I mean, look at these ones here. Heavy duty pickup trucks, they're not selling. Yes, on this lot here, I've seen 2022s still standing. There's 23s and they're 24s, but coincidentally, some of the outgoing 23s are still stickered on the window at more than the brand new 25s, which is odd, but not surprising. They seem to like the ebbs and flows, and unlike the US market, where the Monroney sticker tells the whole story, and if there's an amendment to the price tag, it's usually posted on the front windshield. But unfortunately in Canada, they don't do that. So you walk into a dealership, you don't know if you're looking at a 23, 24, or 25, and what the real price is or how hungry the dealers really are. You end up just paying or negotiating on whatever the window sticker says. Since the pandemic, Jeep, Chrysler, Ram, essentially Stellantis decided to mark up their vehicles and market them as more upscale and of course more luxurious. But the reality is what most people get are just another garden variety domestic product, and people aren't willing to pay that kind of money for these types of vehicles. The CEO Tavares back in 2021 vowed to turn this ship around, but the worst part is he openly admits now that there's problems in the organization. A lot of their domestic products, quality, the supply chain, and the marketing are the things that are limiting these particular vehicles. Rams aren't selling as well as a lot of their competitors, but on average, their vehicles are compared to some of their competitors are an average about $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 more than any of their competition, and yet the quality isn't there to substantiate that. I mean, right here we have a Jeep Compass. These compete with the likes of the CR-V Hondas and the RAV4 Toyotas, but clearly not the same quality. Nobody will openly admit that a Jeep isn't the same quality, but we all know it. And here we have a Compass 4-cylinder turbo engine, and we have a Compass North 4x4. It's a 2024 model year. All kinds of extras on here, so it is fairly loaded up. But I mean, how loaded can you go with a small SUV like this? But here we have all kinds of greatness on top, roof racks, the big screen inside there, colored handles, of course lots of great detail here. But here it is, $47,000, 47 grand. So how does this even possibly remotely compete with the likes from the Japanese brands that are providing a lower cost alternative worth much better quality? Oddly enough, the full-size vehicles like the Wagoneer that you see right here are some of the best vehicles for sales in terms of the Jeep brand, which is odd, partially because it's a full-size, also because it's a newer model. But we're looking at $107,000 for this Wagoneer L Carbide. I mean, that is a whole lot of vehicle for your money, but there's so many great options, and that's a significant amount of money, which is a little bit surprising that they're selling as well as they are, but they are going. But we know specific models like the Chrysler, there's only one. Of course, that's their minivan. Dodge, they're also doing away with the vehicles like this, and we talked about the Durango, which isn't selling all that well, and they're going away. But they're also going to be getting rid of a lot of their cars. We know cars aren't selling. Ford's done away with cars. GM's done away with their cars, and the Malibus hit the road. And even now we're looking at the new Dodges, Challengers and Chargers are also about to be diminished and converted into EVs, or basically eliminated altogether because they're not popular and they're not selling. A big part of the problem during the last 5 years, since 2019 to 2024, the industry average for raising MSRPs was about 24-25%. And according to Cox Automotive data, Ram actually went up about 40% increase in the base MSRP, and Jeep upped their prices by 50% since the 2019 break. Lots of people are grossly overpaying for these. And can you imagine paying 50%, almost double, for one of these vehicles from a mere 5 years ago? People are broke, so cost of living crisis is taking a toll, but greedflation is getting absolutely hammered. And you know things are bad when leadership gets swapped out. June 16th saw Mark Stewart hit the road. May 17th, Tim Kuniskis, who's the CEO of Dodge and Ram. May 24th saw Jason Stojkovic hit the road after 2 short months. And Richard Schwarzwald hit the road in May 28th. June 6th saw Jim Morrison pack it in. And on June 20th, Berta Rodriguez never stepped another foot in that door. The Dodge Hornets are some of the worst selling vehicles on the market for Dodge, and yet their Alfa Romeo Tonale, which is the same platform, is doing fairly well for Alfa. And Jeep's got some big plans. Wagoneer S, full electric vehicle with 600 ponies, is planning to come to the market. Did you also know that Jeep is also planning to revive the Cherokee, probably bringing it in under a lower price point, and as well the Recon, which is going to be a full electric spin-off of the Wrangler, plans to come to market very soon. So Jeep is not messing around with their EVs as well as their hybrid electric vehicles. But what we're seeing over at GM and Ford is they're not putting all their eggs in that electric basket because they know it costs so much money. The research and development eats up all of their eggs, and unfortunately their ICEs have to be cranked up in MSRP to pay for those electrified vehicles, which just means passing that on to the consumer. CEO Tavares is saying we've got to be much more competitive. He plans to do some very aggressive price cuts, but most importantly, many models are looking at getting slashed because models that aren't making money, or even brands that aren't making money, are planned to go bye-bye. But that's too bad, because you and I, the buyers, know that the secret ingredient, the X factor, if you will, to selling more vehicles is coming down to price. If they didn't jack up their prices 50% in the last 5 years, there'd be more people buying these vehicles. But the way it's standing right now, Tavares is looking at slashing makes and models that aren't selling, aren't producing, aren't making money. They're possibly looking at unloading vehicle manufacturers, vehicle brands like Maserati, Alfa Romeo might take a hit. Chrysler, they only have one vehicle in their arsenal. They may make that go bye-bye, as well as Dodge, we know, is on the way out. They have very few models, and those aren't selling very well, so Dodge might be in fact on the chopping block. But Stellantis executives openly admit that some of their bigger brands like Ram, even though they're not selling and their sales are grossly down, are too big of a brand to ignore, as well as some of their other manufactured brands like the Jeep products are also likely going to stick around for some time yet. There's too much invested. They have models like the Wagoneers that are selling, the Wrangler's one of those cult followings, and even small vehicles like this, and as well Grand Cherokees, which have seen price drops recently, are all likely to stick around. So in the folds of the cost of living crisis, these manufacturers seem to be forgetting one thing: people don't have money, but instead they'd rather take chops at vehicles like the Rams, the Dodges, and the Jeeps, as well as a lot of their European Italian versions that they have under the mark, like Alfa Romeo, Maserati, and beyond, because they've moved on. So many executives and top players. They were also as well cost cutting by removing a lot of front-end workers, and those are the people that are actually making these vehicles. How can you eliminate the staff that actually builds these, get rid of them, and you have no vehicles? I mean, just look at these great vehicles and take a look at the price tags. And that should be all you need to see to understand what's going on. Wrangler 4-door Sahara 4x4, $75,700. That's why these vehicles aren't selling. Not because Joe Blow Lunchbox isn't getting his bumpers put on fast enough. It's because of the price tags on these vehicles. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear it. But on top of that, General Motors, why are they giving up the electrified market? What's going on with the big delays? Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.